In Bell Hooks' third book, Teaching Critical Thinking, her third in the trilogy on teaching pedagogy, critical pedagogy, engaged pedagogy, in chapter 6, Purpose, she describes what I believe for many in our profession of teachers and educators is one of the motivators and primary reasons we teach. She says, she says me, but I also say we, strive to teach in ways that were humanizing, that would uplift, that would lift my students' spirits so they would soar towards their own unique fullness of thought and being. I'm going to say that again. Teaching ways that are humanizing, that lift students' spirit so they would soar towards their own unique fullness of thought and being. That they achieve, the tip of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, self-fulfillment. But that we also know that the classroom is a place where they become self-aware of those needs that they have and therefore ways that they could go after fulfilling them. It's a joy of teaching. Now, what's interesting about this is that very distinct from Bell Hooks, who can cite, and she does this in many, many, many reflective passages, her own experiences and now what she does with that, but her own experiences as a student. She hears talking about at Stanford University, where she arrived from small town Kentucky in a segregated school system, where she had been really affirmed by the educational world around her, the Black teachers who were embedded in the community, and there was just accountability on all sides. And therefore, this was a consequence of and supported care in the classroom. She has pages all about this: love, passion, tears, laughter, all in the classroom. So she describes some rather dehumanizing experiences, but often looks at those instances where there was a teacher who managed to inspire her. Unlike her, I of course grew up in a very unique and one has to call liberal educational environment, Brown School in Louisville, Kentucky, or I attended for 11 years. And we were a school that was founded on the intention to build student self-esteem through diversity and mutual respect. Okay? So I didn't grow up in the segregated South, even though I grew up in the same state, but in the city and a generation later. I point out those distinctions because when I insist that we must consider intersectionality and how we engage as teachers in the classroom today, and I refer to work from Bell Hooks, who also reflects on her own experiences of yesteryear as a student and now as a teacher and writer and thinker and public intellectual, I want us to understand that the urgency of now is still the urgency of now. This is why we can't wait. We need to think critically about the fact that, as Bell Hooks says, even though she had clearly defined purpose to do this, to be an uplifting force and critical force, not just friendly and kind and shying away from expressing the truth and our own truths in the classroom, but that be positivist, that we have a purpose in what we're doing. But she says even she was not prepared at the beginning of her teaching to understand that the majority of students would arrive in the classroom colonized in their mind and imaginations. Colonized in their mind and imaginations. Unprepared for the reality that many teachers would view with hostility the idea of education as a practice of freedom. So both we have the colonized students who are prepared to meet the colonized teacher with the colonizing force of the authority that we hold as teachers. And when you want to resist this, she also speaks about this, how students even will resist democratizing the classroom because they're used to autocratic and authoritarian teachers and an entirely teaching environment that supports that. And so it is well worth the read in looking at teaching critical thinking. As I said, in other videos, I've shared this book with many who are in the field, who are interested in getting in, with students. But it is well worth buying the book, sharing the book, discussing the book, and bringing some of the actual practices into the classroom. Because as I said, just from this one passage, you can see that we in this profession must share and defend our purpose and students' right and responsibility to think critically. You got a lot going for you.